Welcome back. You're still watching this special edition, and to be focusing on the main topic for today, internationally and regionally as well. I'm honored to be having with me over the phone Mr. Ramzy Khoury, the Jordanian journalist. Mr. Ramzy, thank you very much for being with us today on Nile TV International and this special edition.
My pleasure.
Mr. Ramzy, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. My pleasure to be with you.
The pleasure is all mine. Of course, we can see today the International Day for the solidarity with the Palestinian people, and on the 2nd of December, on Monday, Egypt will be organizing a ministerial conference to be helping and alleviating the suffering on the Palestinian people, to be ensuring more access and more humanitarian assistance to be going and entering into the Gaza Strip. Can you hear me, Mr. Ramzy?
Egypt is thankfully engaged right now to try to reach a ceasefire with Gaza.
Yes.
And this is extremely important. The engagement this time is a very strong Egyptian engagement. They are pushing because we all know that very soon in January, Mr. Donald Trump will be in the White House, new administration, and unless something breaks very, very soon, the plight of the Palestinian people, especially in Gaza, is going to take a bigger toll, and no resolution would be expected till a few months after the new administration takes power.
Mr. Ramzy, over the past couple of days we have seen the implementation of a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. What were the steps taken to be reaching such a ceasefire between the warring sides, and how can we be replicating the same scenario, the same steps between Israel and the Hamas fighters in the Gaza Strip?
Unfortunately, it's not very comparable, despite the fact that it looks like it is comparable, but it's not.
Yes.
In Lebanon, both American administrations, the outgoing one of Mr. Biden and the incoming one of Mr. Trump,
yes,
have both decided that a ceasefire has to be launched in Lebanon. Trump also communicated to the Israelis, to the Lebanese and everybody that he would like the ceasefire to be able to continue. By the way, it's a very fragile ceasefire.
Yes.
This is nowhere near a permanent ceasefire. It is a fragile ceasefire. It all can break loose, and we can be back in war at any time. The infringements of the Israeli army inside of Lebanon are dozens since the declaration of the ceasefire, and therefore it's a fragile ceasefire. However,
yes,
there is an American will. There was an agreement between the USA and France regarding this, and Israel managed to also negotiate and achieve some candy in return for going for the ceasefire. One of the issues is that France retracted on the implementation of the International Court of Justice arrest warrant of Netanyahu, and issues like that. So Israel managed to actually get something in return for this fragile ceasefire that we see. But for the Israelis to hold a ceasefire with Gaza, there needs to be a change of plans. If the Israelis continue to want to take hold of the north of Gaza and annex it, like they have been communicating, then the possibility for a ceasefire is going to be pretty much nil.
Yes.
Because the Palestinians are not going to accept a ceasefire based on Israeli occupation of the north of Gaza, the displacement of the Palestinians living in the north of Gaza, and all of these projects that the Israelis have declared as goals. So these are goals that are definitely not acceptable to the Palestinians, and if the goals remain, then the chances are there will be no ceasefire in Gaza. So what the Egyptians and other forces are doing right now is to try to reach some mid-solution, if you like.
Yes.
Still based on Israel's withdrawal from Gaza, and the day after is packed with demands and content. For example, there is a discussion ongoing right now. If there is a ceasefire, prisoners of war are exchanged between the two sides.
Yes.
And the Israelis withdraw out of Gaza. Who is going to rule Gaza? Israel refuses for the Palestinian Authority, for example, to rule Gaza. There seems to be some kind of an international consensus that Hamas will not be allowed to rule Gaza again. So these are very, very explosive issues, if you like, and therefore you could see how big of a challenge it is for Egypt and for all of the other powers that want to see a ceasefire happen ASAP. The challenges are very big. So it was much easier to reach a ceasefire with Lebanon than it is to see the same happen with Gaza.
Yes, Mr. Ramzy, you mentioned that there was a willingness, a political willingness by the current or the outgoing administration in the US by Joe Biden and the incoming administration by Donald Trump to be getting even a fragile ceasefire, as you called it. Why do you think there is no political willingness from both administrations, the outgoing one and the incoming one on January the 20th under Donald Trump, to be reaching at least a truce, a temporary ceasefire, a fragile ceasefire, as you mentioned it, until the 20th of January, and there could be some more negotiations for a permanent ceasefire after that?
Because America's policy has been, since day one,
yes,
is to help Israel destroy Hamas. And this policy is what allowed Israel to continue all throughout this past year until today.
Yes.
And the destruction, mayhem, the mass murder of civilians, and all of the atrocities that have happened. If it wasn't for the U.S. policy in support of Israel on that front, Israel wouldn't have been able to manage to sustain itself until today.
Yes.
The only reason they did is because of the unlimited support that the United States gave them in terms of money, weapons, ammunition, and the political support. Every single time anybody tried to reach a resolution at the Security Council of the United Nations, an American veto was waiting for them. And until today, we expect an American veto to spring up if a ceasefire resolution is put on the table again. And therefore, and this is not going to be far from what Mr. Trump and his administration would want. So there is some kind of consensus and agreement,
yes,
between the outgoing and the incoming administrations regarding this issue. The issue of the need to see that Hamas is destroyed. Hamas will not be able to carry out the 7th of October again. And Israel is considered a force not to be reckoned with. Basically, the idea is to teach the region a lesson. If you mess around with Israel, then you are going to be destroyed. Tens of thousands of civilians are going to get killed, and Israel is going to get away with it. Now, if that does happen, then that will be at the expense of international law. So the whole international order will become ridiculous in the eyes of all nations. International law will be of no value to all nations. So the price is very, very, very heavy.
Yes.
It's not a light price to pay.
Yes.
So this policy of the United States is what the problem is. That's the problem.
Yes, Mr. Ramzy Khoury, the Jordanian journalist, thank you very much for being with us today on Nile TV International and this special edition.